Greetings, greetings, greetings to the Run Tell That family. Glad to have y'all here. Always glad to have y'all here. And as we always do, as we've been doing from first week of February, we've been bringing on folks who've been having that impact. So it's not just been about me talking, but having people who've had an impact. And tonight, this evening, I am absolutely honored and ecstatic to have some of the family from North Kakalaki side, from North Carolina side in the house. This brother is a director, producer, businessman, entrepreneur, actor. He has done it all with regards to our arts, our tradition, and our history. He is doing it. And honored this have with us this evening, brother Christopher Everett. Christopher Everett, again, glad to have you here, brother. Honored to have you here.
Thank you for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I asked this question. Who is Christopher Everett? For some of our people out there, again, who is Christopher Everett? Who is that brother?
Well, Christopher Everett, born and raised Laurinburg, North Carolina. It's a little small country town, right on the edge of South Carolina. We're about 5 minutes from the state line.
Yes, sir.
But born and raised from North Carolina, I've always wanted to make films ever since I was a little boy. But, growing up in a small town like that, you never really saw people do it like that or do anything like this. It was always playing sports or doing stuff like that. So when I left Laurinburg and went to college, that's when I kind of started to dibble and dabble in this thing, man. Like back then, I was all in shape. I was about 100 pounds lighter back in those days. So I was doing the whole modeling and acting thing, starting off into the entertainment industry. I did okay with it. I did a couple of modeling gigs up in New York, done some things in Georgia. And then I decided to make a move in 2006 to Atlanta, Georgia, and said, you know what, I want to try to, get my feet wet down there, try to do some acting and some modeling things down there. Didn't work out, but I eventually said, you know what, I want to create my own projects. I'm going to stop waiting around for these type of opportunities, and I want to create my own path and my own destiny. And so that's when I created Speller Street Films. And one of the first projects I did, actually, it wasn't Wilmington on Fire. It was a short documentary for the Laurinburg Institute. It's a historical Black boarding and day school in my hometown of Laurinburg, North Carolina. And so I grew up, right around the corner from the school. I know the family. My grandfather went to school there. My godfather was like the alumni president. So I've always been around this type of history and culture my whole life. And so I did that project, and then that kind of led me into doing, that next project, which was Wilmington on Fire.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I say to those who are checking us out right now, share, share, share. Doing like Shonda Stevenson says, share, 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 because this is important. And I had to let you know that I saw Wilmington on Fire, and just like you and I last week on Queen Quest Zoom on sustainability.
Right.
Now, one of the things with Queen Quest, some of them will tell you, I am pretty, hard on people when it comes to our history and our culture. And the people who are there talking about it, putting it out there, they know I'm like scrutinizing folks. I'm like looking, because I'm like saying, ain't about no pimps and parasites regarding our culture and our history. I don't even play that, because I see myself as being one of the guardians and protectors of that culture and the history of our people. So I'm like there. So I check out Wilmington on Fire. I'm sitting there looking at it. I'm like, Yo, I talk about some stuff. People know that I go to African Spirit. When I do the African Spirit, we talk about John Canoe. We talk about the African holiday that's done right there in North Carolina, right there. And I'm like, and I talked about some stuff about John Canoe no longer being done after Wilmington riots. And so I'm like looking at Wilmington on Fire, and I'm like hearing Alex Manley, and I'm like saying, yo, this brother did the work. I'm like, my mouth like, and I'm going to anyone, those you have not seen it, you can see Wilmington on Fire. It is out there, but it gives the power. So we're going to talk about Tulsa, but guess what? What happened in Wilmington? I tell you, what happened in Wilmington is just as crucial, just as important as Tulsa. Because when we in North Carolina, some people don't realize North Carolina was involved in Black economics. Hayti and Durham, Wilmington. They represent. That's why I'm like saying. So I'm looking at Wilmington on Fire, and then when it's not the personal stuff that came up in it, those are the parts that I didn't necessarily know and get. When I'm not listening to the interviews of people, I'm like, and I got folks in my classes checking it out too, and we all looking at it, and it's like, yo, oh, this came home. So, brother, we're gonna look at a trailer for Wilmington on Fire, but I want the audience and people out there, because we're gonna ask you again, where can folks go and see Wilmington on Fire?
Because people can check it out. People can check it out on Amazon Prime. Everyone out there got Amazon. Check it out. It's on there. But also it's on Quelle TV as well. Quelle TV is a great platform, Black owned, by a wonderful sister. Check it out on Quelle TV and Amazon as well.
And I gotta say that's why I did it on Quelle, and I had folks in my class look at it, and that's why I'm saying, like, yo, this brother done did the work. So we're going to our producer, our engineer, we're going to say, go ahead and cue up Wilmington on Fire for our people to look at and see. And I say to you all, you need to check out the full-length documentary, Wilmington on Fire, because it's on fire. Fire!
Put on the train and given a free ride out of town where they were told to remain. They say that the dead bodies were left in the streets. The foul smell was so strong that buzzards circled for weeks. That black babies cried and moaned for their fathers and a bite to eat. That black folks lost all their savings and were left helpless and beat. It had to be done, said the white people who started it. They loved their town until the blacks tried to change it. They took over the city to restore their heritage, they said. They were heroes to many who wanted uppity folks dead. Some folks still don't see anything wrong with what they did, or that any harm was done to the ones who ran and hid. Serious damage was done to the soul of the town. That's why folks want to turn it around. Now is the time to make up for the crime, to help our children learn from our mistake, to ensure that there will be no more 1898.
I have to go and say this, that when we look at it in the conversation, I'm gonna let you not delve into it fully, but when I started hearing people talk about when they are, well, excuse me, I'm gonna rewind. I talk about how people live in communities and they can no longer go into those communities. And I talk about that people that lived in communities, or that how we can no longer go to our waterways and go and get to the land and areas that we used to always go to. And I talk about this, but then when I saw Wilmington on Fire, and then when I'm beginning to hear conversations about where other businesses and banks and other places are right now on property that was owned by Black folks, again, that took it to another heightened level for me, and it added the layers to what I do with regards to. So I'm letting y'all know right now, out there, people out there right now, some of the stuff that I do and what I share came from checking out Wilmington on Fire, because it added another layer to it. And so I'm going to let my brother, Christopher Everett, director, producer, organizer, activist, because again, and he believes in collaboration, helping other people, because he is about that, again, cooperative economics. He is about collective work and responsibility. So my brother, go ahead and elaborate for our people, with regards to this.
Yeah, well, the Wilmington Massacre, man, it was really a turning point, in this country in 1898. But prior to the massacre happening, Wilmington was a major city in North Carolina. A lot of people look at North Carolina now, they think about Charlotte, as being this major place. But back then, Wilmington was the spot for everyone. And a lot of African Americans, were really drawn to the city because of the economic opportunities, The educational system was great there for children, and also politics. The political arena was very welcoming to African Americans, and they created this thing called fusion politics, where you had black Republicans and white populists kind of merging together to make this thing work. And Wilmington really became like a symbol of what the South could have been after the Civil War, and what this country could have been as well after the Civil War. And so Wilmington really was a staple, man, and a model. And eventually it became majority African American owned, a majority African American populated by 1897. But in the background, you had a white supremacy movement that was lingering, plotting, and planning ever since the end of the Civil War, because a lot of them actually fought for the Confederacy, for the Confederate, military side of things during the Civil War. So that was their whole thing, of really to redeem the South and bring Wilmington and North Carolina back to that place of white supremacy prior to the Civil War. And that's what really happened, man, on November 10th, 1898. It was an actual overthrow of the government, where they removed all the elected officials, black and white, who were part of this fusion coalition. They removed all the black police officers, the black firemen, anybody that was of influence. They made them leave or they killed them. And it totally changed the whole trajectory of Wilmington and the state of North Carolina after that. So you see a couple of years later, the Jim Crow laws come into place throughout North Carolina. And then we know what's up with that. The rest is history. So it was really a thing that was, I wouldn't say hidden, because a lot of people knew about it. They just didn't really know the details of it. But that's why I did the film, to really get it all out there and put it all on the line, and to really tell our story and tell our history, but also have some of those descendants of the victims, like the grandson of Alex Manley and the great granddaughter of Thomas C. Miller, in there, to really tell those intimate stories that a lot of people you can't find in a book. Those are stories that are passed down, from generation to generation. And so I really wanted it to be really from their perspective and something that they would be proud of.
I gotta say, I'm saying to the audience, that when this brother said what he just said, that he wanted to get the voices of the descendants, that was the thing. And then he said, and the stuff that's not in the book. That's why I say I knew about Wilmington. I discussed it. I just talked about John Canoe and talked about how when they go and destroy black folks in Wilmington with regard to their economic power and prowess, even after they did all that, to show you the madness of racism, they still wanted black folks to do the John Canoe. And I've said to people, what? Where in the hell am I going to do this after you have done all this to us?
Right.
This celebration, I said that in the John Canoe celebration, even went out to Texas, but the influence, and they talk about how it came out of North Carolina. So now I'm talking about that aspect, but now I'm actually hearing the voices of the descendants, and that, like I said, that took it to another level for me on this. And I was like, that's why I said I'm looking at Wilmington on Fire, saying, "Yo, this brother here, this brother, a masterpiece right here."
And it also goes back to what you were saying earlier about the whole property aspect. And like, what's funny, man, is that, not funny, but it's like sad, is that when you go in Wilmington, even to today, if you look at the old 1897 directory, you go through that directory and you can look at all the black folks that was living in Wilmington, where their homes were at. A lot of these houses are still there. Like a lot of the old downtown district area, the residential district area, a lot of those houses are still there. A lot of those old houses, they've been renovated. They're still there. A lot of them are still there, where you can go to the old houses where Thomas C. Miller used to live at, and other successful black folks lived at. But they're not even owned. They're not owned by us no more. They're not in the families. They're not black owned, period. So we know who's in them. And it's sad, man, where anytime I would come to Wilmington, I would always just ride by and just have the directory and looking up people's houses and seeing who's in them. And a lot of times I would go there and knock on the door and just talk to them and say, hey, I did Wilmington on Fire. Have you seen it? A lot of times they've seen it, and they know the history a lot of times behind the house as well. Because a lot of times when they move there, they either has like a historical plaque on the house. If not, they just look it up, and then they'll see that an African American used to own this house prior to the 1898 massacre. So it's a lot of history, man.
and just snatched, just stolen. People talk about stolen land. That's what occurs. Stolen land and economic power, economic support for a group of people who have it right now, where people who are impoverished. And so I need to throw something out there to the audience too. When we talk about Wilmington, North Carolina, Wilmington is a part of the northern part of the Gullah Geechee area. That's what we talk about. We say we're from Jacksonville, North Carolina, down to St. Augustine, Florida. And so Wilmington is the major Gullah Geechee city in North Carolina. That's what it was. And so it was Gullah Geechee people who have this economic power that's in Wilmington. And so, my brother, I'm gonna ask the question: who is Alex Manley?
Well, Alex Manley, he owned the newspaper, the black-owned newspaper at the time, the Wilmington Daily Record, the Daily Record. And so originally he had went to school at Hampton University, moved to Wilmington. He actually went to Hampton for commercial painting. That was really his trade that he learned there. Came to Wilmington, he did that for a while, and him and his brother decided to start a newspaper. It started as a weekly paper, then it grew into an actual daily newspaper, and it was considered one of the very few, or one of the only, daily black newspapers in the country back in that day, in the 1890s, and it thrived. He had advertisers from white and black businesses, and it did very well. He employed a lot of pretty much, it was a family run thing with him and his brothers and sisters, kind of ran this whole thing. And it was a great newspaper, a great entrepreneurial enterprise that he was growing. And it was stifled because of the 1898 massacre. What messed him up was him writing a rebuttal article from a response to Rebecca Felton, who was like one of the first female senators out of Georgia. And she made a speech on Tybee Island called Women on the Farm. And it's really a call, to white men and white society to protect white women from these black beasts out here that's raping and pillaging white society and also white women. So a year later, I don't know how Alex Manley even heard about the thing a year later, but he decides to write a rebuttal. There's always been a rumor that he didn't actually write it, because even talking to Dr. Manley and other folks, that they felt, a lot of them heard things that he didn't write it. He just took the fall for it because it came out of his newspaper. So he had to take it anyway. But from what we've heard and seen as fact is that, he wrote it and pretty much said that a lot of the stuff that she's saying is it isn't true at all. Is that a lot of these white women are actually having consensual sexual relationships with black men, and especially mulatto men like himself. He made that a point, but he said that you guys need to check y'all men because it's your man that's raping our women. And so that didn't go too well in the dominant white society. So the people that were behind the massacre of 1898, they were been trying to do something like this, of using white supremacy and these scare tactics. It didn't work a few years ago, but they saw this, and this actually worked, and it stuck out to a lot of the average common white person. And so they plastered this story in all these articles through all the newspapers at the time in North Carolina, throughout. Even in South Carolina with Ben Tillman, he even made a comment about Alex Manley. He said if that N-word Alex Manley was in South Carolina, we would have hung him a long time ago. So it even riled folks all the way in South Carolina, this message. So this message was hot. It spread out across North Carolina and into South Carolina as well. And so Manley became a target of the whole white supremacy movement. He actually had his newspaper closer to downtown Wilmington. That got threatened, and someone's going to threaten to burn that down. So he had to leave that and moved into the other location, and that actually got burned down. And so he was able to get out of town before the massacre happened because they actually wanted to kill him. And so he left and moved up north, lived in Philadelphia for the rest of his life. He just never got into the newspaper business ever again.
And you threw it out there. So I'm saying again, the folks who are in this area, you heard what he said. It was in reaction to, or at least it was in response to something that was said right here in Chatham County, that you have the people are going to say the first female senator. And so she's making a statement right here in Chatham County, Savannah, Tybee Island. And so Alex Manley is standing up for us, not just say just one area, but he's standing up for all black folks. And he now addressed this issue that say, hey, wait a minute. And I'm gonna move on to somebody else, but I want to ask a question: who were the red shirts?
Right. The red shirts, man, they were pretty much called the redeemers of the South. After the Civil War, the whole thing was about redeeming the South and, bringing that glory days of before the Civil War. But, they were similar to the Klan. A lot of people know about the Ku Klux Klan. Very similar, but what different from these guys was that they did a lot of stuff in broad daylight, and they didn't wear a mask over their face either. They were ruthless, man. And their whole thing was just to stop African American progress by force. And they were really that strong arm of the Democratic Party during this time and this whole white supremacy movement. When you first started seeing red shirts, really in South Carolina, Ben Tillman is one of the I would say the architects and co-founders of that whole red shirt movement. And then you see them spread up, even where I'm from in Laurinburg. When I first started doing the film, and researching, man, I saw that there was a lot of red shirt activity from even my hometown. And the pictures of red shirts in my film are the only ones you can find of red shirts in North Carolina are from Laurinburg. All those pictures of red shirts in my film are from red shirts from my hometown of Laurinburg. So this thing of red shirt activity, man, it went across the state of North Carolina, and all of them participated in the massacre of 1898. They were pretty much the artillery, the ground folks that do all that dirty work, the killing, the looting, and all that stuff, and voter intimidation and threatening. They pretty much, that was their job and their role in the whole 1898 massacre.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And because again, now, and I want the audience, those who are listening, looking at this, to understand what the conversation was. Brother Christopher discussed that it was a fusion politics, populism. So you have Caucasians and Africans who are now working together for the benefit of all. And again, I'm going to repeat, that becomes an issue. That Caucasians and Africans are working together for the benefit of all. Yep. But there's a group that's out there lingering who are upset about that, who don't like that. And that sometimes these are the ones, as he threw out there, they want to go back in time. They want to take us back in time. They want to put us in our place. They don't like the fact that these Black people and Caucasians are progressives. And so they now have them out there. And so we said red shirts, we said Nicer Camilla, we say Ku Klux Klan. So again, these are the groups that are right there. And just like again, in South Carolina, they rise and they do a massacre in South Carolina also, and then spread that poison over into North Carolina and hitting one of our great cities, Wilmington. So who is this man, Thomas C. Miller? Who is Mr. Miller?
Oh, Thomas C. Miller, man, was a great man back in that day. He actually was one of the wealthiest Black men in Wilmington before the massacre happened. He was a successful businessman, owned lots of property throughout the city back then. He also had one of the only pawn shops in the city as well. He had the only pawn shop, and he also was a financier as well. He lent money to white and Black people in Wilmington. Like I say, he was the man. He had a lot going on, property all over. He was very successful, and he was one of the main ones, one of the first people they told not to come back and exiled. And, he moved, he had to leave, went up north, and then just resettled in Norfolk, man. And that was it. Lost all his property, lost his business, the whole nine. And, we were very fortunate to have, one of his descendants in the film, Miss Faith Chaplin, who's like the great-great-granddaughter of this. And what's also fascinating and I guess surprising with a lot of the direct descendants, a lot of them really didn't even find out, especially if they aren't from Wilmington. Because see, when a lot of them aren't from Wilmington because they had to leave, a lot of their family left. And so they resettled and went somewhere else. And so when they found out about 1898 massacre, they were like in their 30s or 40s. Even with Dr. Manley, he didn't really find out what happened to his grandfather until he was about 50. He said he knew his grandfather had a newspaper in Wilmington. He didn't know why they left. He just thought that they just decided to move to Philadelphia. And it wasn't until he saw it in a book, what happened. And he started asking questions and then talked to his aunts that were in Wilmington still. And they were like 10 or 11 during the massacre. They actually went through it as little girls. And then he was like, man, when I asked him about the 1898 insurrection, he said it was just a cloud over their face, man, like post-traumatic stress syndrome or something. And then they finally opened up to him and told him what the deal was. And that's how he found out.
And what you're saying, and this is something that has happened to African people throughout, and I'm gonna say at least I know in the South, because there are other people who talked about when they interview people who have experienced that persecution,
Mhm.
that even when you talk to them when they're in their 80s and in their 90s, it's like they
Right.
are that again the trauma. So that's why again, when you all know when you all look at Wilmington on Fire, that's why for myself having known about these other people that I know when I've talked about some things, and people ask me, "Boy, how you get that? How you know about that right there?" Then they say, "You know, people around here don't talk about that." And so now, and I'm not engaging folks in this conversation, and I'm realizing you say realizing the trauma that still stays with them. And
Yep.
so when you said that, I'm like, that is absolutely correct with regards to this situation, this experience, and powerful. And we're gonna be moving on, but I just want to ask you, what were your thoughts when you talked to and interviewed the descendants of Miller and Manley? What were your thoughts? What were some of the things that you thought when you did the interview that came out with regards to the project? What went on?
It was a lot, some of the stuff we couldn't fit in. I wanted to, but it's hard when you're making a film. It's very difficult. You're on a certain time, schedule, and you're trying to fit stuff. You have to make stuff flow well and fit and make
Yeah,
sense. But just talking to them, for about 5 or 6 hours when we shot them, it was just getting a real life history lesson, and also hearing those intimate stories, especially like from Dr. Manley, him talking about how his grandparents met, and stuff like that, and also how his grandmother's family, they didn't want him. They didn't really like Alex Manley like that. They felt that he was just too fair skinned. He
wow,
talked about that with the whole, because Alex Manley could actually pass for a white man. Even though he didn't act like that. He would always talk about being black all day. But when you look at him, he can actually pass for a white man. And then
yeah,
so what was her name? Caroline Sagewar, who became his wife. Her family, she came from the Sagewar family, who were prominent, was a prominent family in Wilmington during the time. Her father was a great builder. He had his own, I would say, compared to a construction company of today. And he built a lot of the houses that are still around to this day. And so they were a prominent family in there, in the city of Wilmington. And they didn't really want her to marry him, but they eventually got married. And it worked out. And also just talking about him being a Sunday school teacher, at his church, Chestnut Presbyterian, which is still around today. So just hearing those intimate stories, man, of just who Alex Manley was as a person. You know what I'm saying? He was just a man of integrity, and he loved black people. Even though he was a fair-skinned brother, he still represented and was always black first. And especially when he made that rebuttal article, because he came from that. He came from a black woman being raped, by a white man. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's why he really took that personal and
yeah,
really wanted to respond in the way that he responded. And so just hearing those personal stories, man, and also with folks like Miss Faye Chaplin in regards to Thomas Miller, and just hearing her just talk about the frustration and the anger of knowing that your family should have millions of dollars right now if this massacre didn't happen. And same with Alex Manley. There's no telling what he could have done with that media empire he had. Because when you look at the News and Observer and the Josephus Daniels family and what they've grown into, and you know what I'm saying, and then you see all the other businessmen, white businessmen, that those generations down the road, what happened. This could have been the same thing. This would have been the same thing for a lot of African Americans during this time. So there's no telling what these families would have been right now. And there's no telling what the city of Wilmington could have been as well.
yes, sir, yes, sir. And I'm saying to folks, share, share, share. And we got some comments made by one Julius Hall about red shirts trying to talk about Herschel V. Jenkins High School. Again, hating, because I call it a family,
Uh,
constantly trying to hate. Then Dr. Deidre Grimm, who is an activist here, and also with regards to healthcare and also culture, she looking at the Cape Fear area because she want to connect with you. I'm gonna pass
yeah,
on your information because
yeah.
she's
Send
doing
them my email. Send them my email.
make sure of that. But then also she want to now do comparison of Savannah and in Wilmington, wanting us to get into a conversation. But we got some other stuff we gotta talk about. because Wilmington on Fire is the project that we talked about. But then he got another a current project. Oh, excuse me. He's working on Wilmington on Fire 2. Then he got one that's out right now, Grandmaster. So tell me, brother, what black folks know about karate outside looking at kung fu shows, and karate shows on Saturday afternoons back in the day? What is up with that?
Well, Grandmaster, it's my next project. We're almost done with it. We should be done shooting by June, July. So we're so close to finishing up. But Grandmaster, it's a documentary about the life and legacy of Grandmaster Victor Moore, who's a martial arts pioneer, African-American man, martial arts pioneer, in the sport of karate from the 60s, when karate really kind of became a professional sport, in the 60s. He was a pioneer during that whole, I guess, the golden era, you can call it, of karate and martial arts. And it's really about him, man. I did this project, my old karate teacher learned under him. And when I did Wilmington on Fire, I ran into my old karate instructor in Laurinburg, and he heard about me doing Wilmington on Fire, doing tours and screenings. And he was like, man, you should do something on my teacher. I'm like, well, who's your teacher? And he was like, have you heard of Grandmaster Victor Moore? I was like, nah. And so that made me research. I said, oh, snap, this guy's accomplished a lot, and some of Grandmaster Moore's accolades, he sparred against Bruce Lee. They did an actual speed competition against each other at the 1967 Long Beach Internationals in California. He's fought people like Chuck Norris. He's won several karate world titles. Excellent teacher all around, been doing martial arts, teaching it for over 50 years. And he's still around, teaching. And so that's what really this project is about, to really show his impact on the sport of karate, and also how karate has been a part of our community and culture, since the 60s, and that positive impact it's had on our community and culture as well.
Yes, sir. And now I have to say this. So, why nobody know about him? Why nobody know about him?
Well, I would say, they don't know about him. It's a lot of those guys back in the day, and we're going to kind of do like a tribute at the end of the film to pay homage to all those black guys and women, because you had a lot of black martial art women that were doing their thing as well on the tournament circuit. And we want to pay homage to all these folks. And, back then it was a different, different time. Racism was prevalent like it was in all sports. It definitely was in martial arts back then as well, because martial arts was similar to, boxing, where, it was about the superiority thing, strong, the strong will and everything. And they wanted, the white person over it. But, they had one person in Bruce Lee who became like the staple and the poster person for that, which, exploded the whole martial arts scene. But, you didn't see a lot of our people doing it. Only time you saw us, we were getting beat up on screen, or, we would do some things with blaxploitation, but you didn't really have us out there fully. And then in the future, you would always see us in these comedy type of martial arts things, where it was like a Dragonfly Jones type of thing. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I wanted to kind of change the narrative. I was like, no, it was some powerful brothers back in the day that really took this sport serious, and it changed a lot of lives as well. And just when we interviewed some of the Grandmaster Moore's former students about how it kept them off the street, kept them on the right path, and they became businessmen and became just productive men and women in society. And also right now he's working with a guy in Kinston, North Carolina, who's, a little mentally challenged, but karate and martial arts has totally changed his life. He's like one of the top workers at his company now. He was winning tournaments before COVID, and karate has totally transformed this young brother's life, man. And that's really what the message of the film is, just showing the power of martial arts and its effect on our community and culture. And now we need to get back to that somewhat.
Yes, sir. And what we're going to do now, to our producer and engineer, let us play the trailer for Grandmaster. Let us look at that, and we'll come back and continue this conversation, this wonderful conversation with our brother, Christopher Everett.
Like Grand National Champion in the world.
You go outside and you hit the raindrops that's coming down, and you see a raindrop, bing!
I'm blessed to have the opportunity to learn from this guy, because he has so much knowledge.
People says, if you done all this and all that, Vic Moore, why I never heard of you?
I want to get some of my DVDs for you, Lee. speed is in the mind. That's what makes Vic Moore fast.
The one thing that's left for me is to leave my legacy and keep real karate alive.
And so when Grandmaster, when you finish the production, say by the end of the year, so what would be the vehicles, the venues that we can see Grandmaster? Have you lined that up yet? Or are you still working on that?
We still, we're gonna put it on Quelle TV. That's already a definite. I've already talked to them. They want to have it on their platform. So we're gonna have it on there, Amazon Prime as well, and we'll definitely be doing some screenings. So we definitely want to come down there your way. We'll set up something. We definitely want to come down there with Queen Quet as well, and just throughout, because he stays in North Carolina now. He's been in North Carolina since the 80s, and he's originally from Cincinnati. So we want to do some stuff up there in Ohio, here in North Carolina, and also all through the South, man.
Yes, indeed. So, and with that, that's why I say it's so important, because now we are able to know about him via, as I tell folks, the hunter will always be the hero of the story until the lion has been historian.
Right.
And you're the historian with regard to that project, what you're doing with regard to him and telling the story. But something else, that's why I want to tell folks that, but you are about collective work and responsibility. Another thing, you're going to be working on Wilmington Fire 2. Am I not correct?
Yeah, we're working on that now. We're doing Grandmaster Wilmington on Fire 2 at the same time. I'm actually shooting Wilmington on Fire next weekend, but we'll be done shooting that like June. So we've been filming Wilmington on Fire Chapter 2 for about 2.5 years now. And it's really looking at the city of Wilmington today and putting the spotlight on today's Wilmington, and also what the community is doing to really bring this city back to what it used to be, and also bringing it to the future as well. What the future is going to be in Wilmington is going to be because of its citizens. And I'm showing this more of the African American side of things. I wanted to show our people doing something, because a lot of times when I would show Wilmington on Fire, people will always give Wilmington a bad rap of saying, black people ain't doing nothing there. I was like, no, that's not true at all. Wilmington's like a second home to me. I met my wife here when I was filming Wilmington on Fire. So Wilmington is like my home pretty much. And so I've, grown to know a lot of people here that are doing some amazing things, black folks. And so we're documenting one of these, this black owned co-working space downtown Wilmington, the first one here in Wilmington, called Genesis Block. Brother and sister doing that thing of trying to rebuild that black business class in Wilmington. So they're doing it through that. Then you also have people on the grassroots level like Sokoto House and Lily Nicole with the lowercase leaders. They actually led the protest movements last summer where they occupied City Hall for months. They actually got a permit. We were there. We captured all of it. They actually got a permit to protest in front of City Hall every day. And it was crazy, man. But they got their demands that they wanted, and the rest is history. And now they're doing a lot of community outreach and doing some things in the community. And we've been documenting all that. And, so you have a lot of those things. Then you have a young brother who has an excellent thing he's doing and working on, which he's launching soon, is a black mobile Black History tour bus. And so we've been documenting his process of getting that together and strategizing. And so he'll be launching that in a few months, which will be there to document, his first tours that he has lined up. And so that's what it's about. Part 2 is really showing how this community is rising up again to really take a stand, to really reclaim their city and bring it back, to what it once was.
Yes. And so then in particular, Dr. Deidre Grimm going to definitely want to be a part of that so she can make a comparison of Wilmington and Savannah with regard to that. So again, Dr. Deidre Grimm, so you can go ahead and then you can go on with your people in the Cape Fear area, all that too. What I put the Christopher Everett. But now I want to also have a conversation with you about something that you also shared, that you talked about. There's a brother who has produced a project, and the assistance that you provided through Speller Street, if I'm not mistaken, or at least helping them. So I want people to hear that too. Because again, as I said, this brother right here, is not only about himself, but also helping other people too. So I want you to go and share that.
Oh yeah, well, doing Wilmington on Fire just led me to get a lot of opportunities, do a lot of networking and meet a lot of great people. And so I said, you know what, let me start my own film company. And so I created Speller Street Films, and then just kept doing what we're doing with Wilmington on Fire. But I also felt like I needed to be able to help other Black filmmakers specifically because, I was helped. I had a few breaks thrown my way and had some advice, the guidance. I'm not just going to just give you something. You have to put the work in. And so with people that I've connected with, they were people that were hungry like I was and were willing to do the work, and were doing it. They just needed an extra boost or a door open for them, and they can just run through it. And so I was able to connect with a talented brother, Ricky Kelly, who eventually did a documentary called Black Beach, White Beach, A Tale of Two Beaches. It's out right now on Amazon and BET Plus right now. But it's a documentary about the 2 bike weeks that go on in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. The Harley Bike Week, and then you also have the following week during Memorial Weekend, Black Bike Week. And it talks about the history of Atlantic Beach and, the history behind it, and also why Black Bike Week started as well. And then also the racism that's going on, during Bike Week and stuff like that. So it's an amazing project. He wanted me to be a part of it. I decided to executive produce it and help him out. And he got a distribution deal. And so it's available now for people to check out on Amazon Prime. And if you have BET Plus, it's on there as well. And so that's one example. Recently, we have a film right now. It's a narrative short. It's an Afro-futuristic science fiction short film called The Black Baptism. And it's directed by a young lady, Stephanie Diane Ford. The same thing. She came to me. I knew her, and she wanted to make a film. It was her first film. I said, well, send me the script, send me the budget. And she showed me she can actually do this. She had a plan, and it wasn't going to really cost a lot. So I said, you know what? I can put $5,000 into this and do this. I believe in this. And I love science fiction. I've always wanted to do it, but I just never had the time because I always would do documentaries. And so she knew that. And I said, you know what? I want to get behind this. And so we did it. We made it. And it's been doing this thing on the festival circuit for over a year now. And we just recently screened at the North Carolina Black Film Festival in Wilmington as well. And we got a couple more coming up. So those are the things we're trying to do. I wish I can do more. I might be also producing another project as well with a few folks in New York. But again, supporting what I'm doing with Wilmington on Fire and when Grandmaster comes out, and also part 2, that's where that support goes. It's spread out, to other filmmakers. And then also, I recently started a cool initiative with my boy Curtis John out of South Carolina. We started an initiative called Black Docs. And Black Docs is an initiative to really try to help build an authentic documentary film culture in our community. And so we started it last year and kicked it off last June with Wilmington on Fire, and it blew up. You know what I'm saying? Our first virtual screening was we had 300 people. And then we also had Erica Alexander. People remember her from Living Single from back in the day. She actually, she does documentaries now. And so she actually moderated my Q&A. Man, I was nervous because I grew up watching the lady, on TV. And so I played it cool the whole time. So, that was the kickoff to that. And then we screened other films like Miles in the Life. We screened a cool documentary about natural hair care in our community. And so we're kicking that back up April 9th as well, and also in May. So we got some things coming with that. So those are the things that I've been doing to really help other Black documentary filmmakers, whether it's helping produce or helping exhibit, their work as well, and build that support, because that's what we got to do, man. We can't look for other communities to come in and tell our stories. We have the talent, we have the stories. They're coming into our community and writing books and doing stories. So I said, you know what? We need to do that, and we need to control it. So that's what I'm trying to do.
And you're definitely doing a great job with regards. And we got our family on YouTube looking at it from ATR on the YouTube side, and they're making comments. They like Black sci-fi. They say it's timely with regards to Black documentaries. So again, the family right there. Deidre Grimm wants to know a list of everything that you're involved in. So I guess I'll get that from you and then send it to us because they want to know everything We'll
And
be
tell them to
posting.
hit me up. Tell them to hit me up on Facebook. Look me up. We can chat. People want to hit me up. Just hit me up on Facebook. Love to talk to you.
Oh, I'm trying to control it.
You trying to control it? All right.
But since you don't put it out there, to them, they can contact you, Christopher Everett, on Facebook. Because I gotta tell you this. I had said I gotta be in one of the projects. I gotta be. Julius Hall want to be first, and he's not trying to talk about it because he hearing all the stuff you said. He not want you to do the Julius Hall story. Hold on. Wait a minute. Deidre Graham wants to have a Cape Fear. Now, Julius Hall story. This is little Jamal. I'm the one that got him here. Got people, YouTube and all that. I'm like, hold up. So
also, I got another project as well, and I'll announce right here. I really haven't announced it publicly, but I'll do it now because they said I can. Actually, I'm giving y'all the exclusive right here, though. I just signed on to direct a 3-part documentary series about the history and story of Black architects and builders in North Carolina. So we're starting that in August.
Yo, it's right here. Now it's on Run Tell That. Brother Christopher Everett, that's right. Bam, 3-part documentary again. And that's important with regards to Black architects. Again, right there in North Carolina, because we know the art form, they were doing it in North Carolina. That's it, brother. We are absolutely ecstatic with regards to what you were doing and the work you're doing. So you have been doing it for the people, but I want to now throw it out there to say, what is the advice that you would give to brother? Oh, excuse me. I had to do this thing. I had to rewind because sometimes some of us going to say that we are filmmakers and we really ain't filmmakers. It's like an excuse, a game that we play. I've shared that before. It's a game we be playing. But for that person who seriously want to get in being a filmmaker, what advice would you give to people right now? We know we can't give everything, but what is some of the insight that you can give to folks? Because again, we're about always trying to empower our people.
Well, I would say I would give anybody, from just the mistakes I've made, and I've learned from a lot of them. And I always continue to make them as well. But I will always tell people that, start small first. You don't have to run out the back and do a feature like I did. Do like about 2 or 3 shorts first, and do them in a way where you can do them yourself. Meaning that where you can find your own cinematic voice and language. Get you a camera, get you some editing software. A lot of this stuff is cheap now, and learn how to edit your stuff as well. It's gonna take you places where you can really edit your own stuff. So get to the point where you can at least put some scenes together yourself. So there are plenty of training programs out here. Lynda.com, YouTube has a lot of them. A lot of community colleges in your area offer these type of things as well. Take advantage of them. Also listen to all the podcasts that are out there. I'm constantly learning, listening to new podcasts of how to distribute your stuff, market your stuff. What's the best lens to get, how to shoot better interviews. So you're constantly learning, cause I look at it like how Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, were doing it. Even though they won rings every day, they still went out there and they practiced. Kobe got up 4 or 5 in the morning every day. It didn't matter whether he just won a championship. And that's how you got to do it as a filmmaker. Every day you got to just want to get better and continue to get better. And also in regards to finding stories to tell, just look in your own backyard. You'll be surprised what's in your own backyard, in your own family, on your own block, just in your own community. So many stories out there, especially in our community as African-American, Black people. We have the story. We have the culture. That's why everybody is coming writing about our stuff. I know one guy, this one white guy, man, he's a historian. I asked him one time, man, I said, yo, why you don't never write nothing about your people? You know what he said? He said it's not interesting. All he does is write about the Black experience. And I asked him why he don't write about his people. He said it's not interesting. So right there, it shows you that we have the culture, we have the interesting stories to tell, but it's up to us to control it and also benefit and profit from it as well and grow it. You know what I'm saying? And take those profits and reinvest them in our community. And that's what we need to do. But those are the things I would really tell people, man. Start small, learn as much as you can on the editing side and with the camera, and also create those stories at home first and find those stories right there in your own backyard and just grow from there. Because once you get those first couple of films out, other things are going to come. People are going to hit you up, say, hey, have you heard about this? That's how I ended up doing the Grandmaster Project, because I did Wilmington on Fire. And then my old martial arts teacher said, hey, you should do something about my teacher. So once you get those first films out, other things are going to follow and other opportunities will follow. You just got to be ready for them and prepared for them.
And just like some of my family said on YouTube, they said so many stories. That's right, so many stories, and they're working on a documentary right now. So that's a beautiful thing. And again, sister, my cousin Vanessa Taylor, she was like saying, "Yeah, it's wild because see, Vanessa, if she gets your information, she gonna try and make sure she got you doing something." I'm just letting you know that.
Right.
Well, she on top of it too. And so Mike Kelly, again, they like everybody is mesmerized by what you were doing. Because again, that's why I tell people, that's what we try to do. We try to get the people out there who are doing things. But it's something that you said that I got at least go ahead and let you, if you want to talk about it. Wilmington on Fire. I'm going to backtrack. Wilmington on Fire. There's a book on Wilmington, based on the Wilmington riots right now.
Right.
And where did they ascertain some of the information? I'm just going to ask you that.
Oh yeah, man. You got a book out, man. I ain't trying to, knock the brother and that, he doing what he do.
I'm just saying,
well, the book, I'll just go ahead and say it. I don't care. But, the book, it's called Wilmington's Lie. It's a book that's out there. It's been out there for about a year now. Written by, a person that's not from my community. Like I said, I don't knock nobody that, wants to do anything about our community, but, he pretty much, he doesn't say it anymore, but he pretty much was acting like he never even heard about Wilmington on Fire. But, he ordered a DVD like 2 years before his book came out, so it's like, those are the things, man, that kind of get you frustrated sometimes, but it is what it is. If people want to check out the book, check it out. It's a good book, but, we have what we have out as well, so I'm all about, supporting it all and getting the knowledge from where we can get it from,
Yes.
So it is what it is, but it goes back to, what we have to do and what we need to do as a people. We need to support our Black authors. We need to support our Black filmmakers as well. And then if we do that, all this other stuff can get corrected in no time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm going to throw something out there right now because my trainer made sure to say I need to let folks know. With regards to right now, the time period that we're in right now, we need to maintain our health. We need to be healthy. We need to be healthy mentally and physically. So we need to work on with regards to our weight, our diet. So also work on gaining muscle. So because we're going to be doing that, but this has been such a great conversation. I didn't want to take the last 5 minutes to get into that. But we're going to close out. And I'm going to let it be closed out by you, my brother, with regards to what are the things that you want us to know? What are the things you want to see from us? And again, this has been a great show. And that's why I say I'm honored to have you on the show with us. And so, bam, Wilmington on Fire. On fire! Fire! So I not my brother, Christopher Everett.
No, I just want to thank you guys again for the support, having me on your platform and the audience. I love the engagement. This is what keeps me motivated and keep me going, man. Sometimes I get down about certain things, if things aren't going my way with some of my film productions, but this is what keeps me going because it shows me that people really appreciate what I'm doing. And that's what keeps me motivated is, my community. If my community loves what I'm doing, I'm going to keep making these type of movies and just keep helping other Black filmmakers as well make these type of movies because I can't do it all, so that's why I try to help others do the same thing. And I urge them to do the same thing that I did for them. I say, hey, find you a couple of filmmakers as well. After you get straight, you do the same thing so we can keep growing this, because we're all outside the system of Hollywood. And so, but we can still make the same impact that a Hollywood studio can if we just all work together. And that goes for, the community as well. If you like what we're doing, support it. Let people know about it. Watch the films on BET Plus, Amazon, and then tell a friend, have watch parties at your house and have dialogues and discussions. So just doing those things really will go a long way, and also support Black authors as well.
Great, my brother. We appreciate it. Now, I wasn't going to say anything, but then Ivan Cohn went and said that if I do a cameo, y'all have to pay me scale. That's what he said, so, but again, we're not concerned about Julius Hall and people like that. Deidre Graham, we might try to let you get the information for brother Christopher Everett. But, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm just a stater. I gotta be first. I gotta be first. And so again, brother, we are honored to have you. We're gonna have you back again because there's a lot of information that you can provide to help people. Because again, with regards to this craft that you're involved in, that is so necessary for us. Again, we're honored and happy to have you. And to all the Run Tell That family, glad to have you join us this segment and check us out next week and share with other people. Share, and let people know about Wilmington on Fire. Check it out, Amazon Prime and also on Quelle TV. You can get it right now. It's there for you. Again, appreciate you. Run Tell That. Appreciate you, brother. Peace and blessings.
Right.